this thing called atheism and the premises that people establish about the word. So as I was saying, our founding fathers were deists. Okay, a lot of people say, welcome. A lot of people say that they were Christians, but the reality is most of them were deists. And so he's asking the question, yes, you can put Solomon and Samson in the history category. Yes, they were heathens. You can put Solomon and Samson in the history category, but would he do the same? And he's talking about Thomas Paine. Would he do the same with the crucifixion and the resurrection, or does a different kind of narrative now take place? The key here is that he simply does not believe God would reveal himself in propositional truth. All right? Paine did not invent that. It existed from the beginning. Revelation was not in a vacuum of belief. Revelation was sustained by evidence and propelled by a reality check time and again. That very means by which we ascertain truth is not merely an inner voice, but a rationale of why we are here in the first place. The question should really be why we even think of a supreme being at all. Why do we ask if there's a sovereign power over the universe? Is it because we are deluded into thinking there should be? Or is it because reason demands a cause and that demands a purpose? Is it possible that deep within our hunger is this quest to know why we are here in the first place, and our naturalist cavalier dismissal of that question falls upon questing souls that search for a reason as much as the body yearns for water? There were no professors of science in the original created order to question revelation. From deep within the human soul arose the challenge for autonomy over against a boundary in which to live. So let's get over these two blunders. The one that thinks that this is a modern person in revolt, because what Ravi is talking about here is the fact that this is an age-old question. Atheism is the age-old question of theism or atheism, and it didn't start with atheists, right? It started in the garden. Did God say, and is it true? So when people look at atheism, they think, oh, this is a new thing, and he's saying, no, it's not. It's the age-old question of, is there a God or is there not? Did God really say, and is it true? Right? And then he asked the question, is there something on the inside of us that makes us desire or have a quest for God? Or did somebody give us that information to make us think that there's a God? Well, I can say for my own life, and I've shared this before, I started praying to God when I was maybe about 4. And I lived in a household where my mother didn't tell me anything about God. She grew up with God. She grew up under church and all of that. And my grandmother was a missionary, and my grandmother would take them around different places with her on her missionary trips. And my mother grew up very bitter about church, about anything to do with God. So her decision in life was, if I have children, I'm not going to teach them anything about God. They're not going to know about God from me. They're not going to hear about God from me. And she kept her word. She kept her promise. She didn't mention anything to us about God. So this, as he was saying, that there's a quest in your soul and a search for a reason as much as the body yearns for water. Where there's a scripture in Ecclesiastes that tells you, it says God has set eternity in the hearts of men. In other words, there's something in you that recognizes that there's more to this life than what you're currently living. There's something in you that recognizes that he set eternity in you so you can seek it out. Right? So again, he's saying that, yes, it's an inborn, divinely placed desire in you to seek out this eternity that he set in your heart. And you're only going to find the answer to that eternity through him. So he says, let's get over these two blunders. The one that thinks that this is a modern man in revolt, and the other that thinks that intellectuals disbelieve in God and only the naive or stupid continue to believe in God. There are a lot of people that actually, I've heard people say that, oh, you must be really stupid because you have faith, or you're a Christian and you don't know, you just need to learn a couple of more things, or you need to learn about other religions, and then you'll stop believing in God. And so people have this notion that if you're intelligent, then you really shouldn't believe in God, or that only the naive or only the uneducated people believe in God. And they especially feel this way about Christians. They especially feel this way about Pentecostals, right? They think that you lack intelligence and that's why you're drawn to God. But no, it's not that. It's not merely an intellectual struggle. It is a struggle of bridge building, of trying to tie theoretical structures to hungering heart reality. So I'm tying what I know about God to what I'm experiencing about God. All right. So the second question that originated in Genesis came in the form of a challenge. He says, you will not surely die. That's what the serpent tells Eve. You will not surely die. You will be as God, defining good and evil, knowing good and evil. And I had this discussion yesterday with someone who was online, and they were talking about this. And I said, if you think about it, the only thing the serpent could offer was her tasting of this fruit and having the knowledge of good and evil. It doesn't say that she would have the wisdom to know what to do with good and evil. It just only offered her the knowledge. And many times you can look in our world and you can look in our society. People know about good and evil, right? They're studying, they're learning, they're ever learning, right? But never coming to the knowledge of the truth. I can know about good and evil, but what good does it do me to only know and not have any wisdom on what to do with what I know? And the wisdom is going to come from the Holy Spirit. He says, for Darwin, as our polite modern thinkers, hell is an anathema. Why would any self-respecting human being think up hell? Interestingly, these who challenge the existence of God are the very ones who are willing to punish others for their beliefs. Destroy the livelihood of those who believe in the sanctity of marriage. And we see that happening now in our society. Don't give them a place in academia if they really believe God exists. Such is the retribution of self-worship imposed by those who themselves call God a vengeful, joy-killing monster and a freedom-restricting tyrant. So this is how they feel about God, but yet then they turn around and do these same things that they say they hate God for. You're saying, oh, I hate this, I hate God because he's a freedom-restricting tyrant. But then when someone disagrees with your worldview and beliefs, what do you go and do? You become a freedom-restricting tyrant. So, fascinating how we wield power when we own it and then mock others with power for giving in to the same expression. The enemy of our souls basically counters the claims of God, not merely by questioning them, but then by asserting that by disobeying God's commands, one will actually be promoted to taking God's place. Does that make any sense? If you disobey God's commands, you're going to be promoted to take his place. Once again, at the heart of all temptation is the desire for autonomy and power. The human scene was steeped in the battle for autonomy and power right from the beginning. Did God speak? Is it true what he says about good and evil? Are we going to believe the truth? Or are we going to be comfortable with the lie because of the promise that the power that it promises to give us? So it seems as though the ultimate destination point, then and now, is the power to control culture and destiny. Think about all of the decision making that we see happening in our world, and it boils down to the power to control culture and destiny. The power to control many cultures and therefore control their destinies. Very recently, he says, a Russian business tycoon gave Stephen Hawking $100 million toward his endeavor to find extraterrestrial intelligence. Hawking has opined that it is critical for us to find them before they find us, saying that if we don't find them before they find us, they could wipe us out of existence. After the slaughters in San Bernardino, Belgium, Paris, the Boston Marathon, Turkey, Baghdad, Orlando, Dallas, and the list continues to go on, we want to get to other planets without fixing our own and destroy them also. I found this comment fascinating. My first reaction was kind of cynical. Yes, I thought, since we don't see much intelligence on this planet anymore, let's go looking for it elsewhere. But then another thought kicked in. It is fascinating that the world's brightest mind thinks an intelligence possibly exists out there that could destroy us, but that no intelligence exists as the creator of us. Wow. Think about that. You're spending $100 million to go look for what you think is intelligent life that could possibly destroy us, but yet you don't believe that an intelligent life created us. Professor Hawking himself had been left at the mercy of a pragmatic life is not human in the womb, or not worth saving by virtue of a degenerative disease. If he had been left at that mercy, right, of a person who believed that because of a degenerative disease that life was not worth saving, he would have been destroyed himself, and the world would never have seen the likes of his own genius. It would have been our loss. So you can see how intrinsic value decisions are in the choices that we make. The scientific single vision does not give us values. It only gives us what is and cannot give us what we ought. Is it any wonder that in this scenario where science is our single vision, existence is the circle, and what we believe, our values, are merely a dot, as we described before. Another personal note, from having lived in Cambridge in the early 90s, Hawking's first wife was and is a devout Christian, an intellectual in her own right. Hawking himself has paid her the finest compliments. Living side by side with one of the brightest minds in the world did not take away her deep belief in Jesus Christ and in created order. That alone should tell us that what is at the issue is not as simplistic as an intellectually determined faith. So then, right from the beginning, in the face of choices, two questions determine the future. Number one, did God say? And number two, do you really think you're going to die? Or can you become like God, determining good and evil? Those are the two main questions that need an answer. And as we go through the worldviews, he's gonna continue to talk about those two questions, right? So the theoretical backdrop is this: what does it mean to be an atheist? What does the ism of the atheist hold? Is it monolithic, meaning has it just not changed? Are all atheistic systems the same in political theory? How did that philosophy become a formal system? And how does one respond to its claims? All right, so that's where we're going to stop today. And we're going to continue and pick that back up on next Thursday. And I believe that we are out of time for today. So I want to thank you all for joining me on our Thinking Thursday. I know I said a lot. I know we went over a lot concerning Protestantism, Catholicism, and a little bit talking about the theories behind atheism. But I hope that you got something out of today. Tomorrow is our Finance and Wealth Friday, and we're going to be back looking at tools for Titans, which is helpful tips and success strategies for entrepreneurs, as well as we're going to be looking at Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Powernomics, which is talking about strategies for success for Black business owners and the Black economy for Black Americans, which is in need of some help. So that's where we are on Friday. I hope that you will come and join us again, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day today. Thank you all so much for joining me, and we'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care, and God bless.